Okay. Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. So the way that this was explained to me is that as you go from the left to the right, you're going to be passing through a few different phases of what your project is. In the first column, you have basic concepts, how feasible is an idea. So things that you'd be looking into are like literature, technical documents, what your market is, whether or not you'll have any stakeholders in what you're developing. The next few stages are designing what your device or product is. So you get together the needs of what it has to do and the function that it needs to do, and you basically design what you think would work to fulfill that need or to fulfill that function. You go through a few designs, and then you go through a verification stage to say, yes, this element of our project is necessary for the proper function of our device. Also in this stage, you would do things like a risk analysis and a cost analysis, and this is where you're starting to build up basically a flow chart of all the things that you're buying, how much they cost, but also how important they are for the successful use of your product. And if something is absolutely critical, what's the potential that it could fail and cause a problem or cause harm or so you don't want any of that. So you're doing some of those testing, bench testing, and things like this. So verification is one step. Validation is it's kind of like, does this meet the needs of the original stakeholders? So based on the original concept, are we hitting our original goals? And if everything is good, then you release the product and do, I guess, what they call design transfer. So you start shifting towards a commercial project, and you start later on, doing some of the operations stuff and producing the project and finding supply, doing your supply chains and all that kind of stuff. So this is the late stuff that you start needing more than engineers. For you can have a team of a few engineers here, more people, and then once you're here, you need like staff and facilities and a lot of stuff. And so the idea behind all of these different rows are just things to consider at each of these stages. So in the first row, you have something. This is design review and results. So you have things like, do you have a design plan? Do you have a cost analysis? I don't know what V&V means. Software considerations. Do you have a plan for quality? What's your validation strategy? Do you have suppliers for the thing?
Do you know what these IU and all that?
So it's like incomplete. Let me see if it's on the back. Yeah.
Okay.
Initiate, complete, update, operate, just different teams, marketing, regulatory, suppliers. So players in the process, and then whether it's been started or completed or needs to be updated, right? So in the early stages of a project, you would need to initialize a design plan, a schedule, cost analysis, find some suppliers, and check on marketing stuff, right? So it's just initialize. By the time you get to, some of this stuff where you're actually starting to do testing and tooling and stuff, you want to make sure that your suppliers and your marketing is in place and you want to update your designs as you go, and then initialize these things.
Oh, okay.
So
how it
as you
goes.
move from left to right, a lot of these things are getting checked off, and then by the time you get to here, that's where all the players come in.
Okay, got it.
Right, so who's handling all this stuff? The marketing department is doing marketing.
So you're going like this?
Yeah, so not everything needs to be started at the same time. Here's some customer input, right? How do we sterilize? How do we package? How do we do regulatory stuff? Are we going to do 510K, PMA? Maybe it's a class 1. You don't have to do either one of those things. Right? So you'd start looking into some of that stuff. And then as you go through the whole thing, here's some considerations for risk analysis. So you do a failure modes effect analysis where at each stage, what are the components in your system, in your product system that can manifest and create failures, and how can you create redundancy or safeguards against failures to make sure that you have a safe and effective product. It's a lot of FMEA stuff. You've got development tools, instructions. So a lot of documentation you would want to start having, but you wouldn't start creating an instruction manual in the concept phase, right? You want to go through at least a few phases of iteration of your design until you have something that you think is going to be a final product, right? You might use some of the initial stuff, right? Some of your first few risk analysis reports in those instructions, but you'd wait, right? MFG, manufacturer, I guess, process development. So yeah, all of this stuff, manufacturing type of stuff, is going to happen later in the life cycle. Looks like verification, all this stuff. So you can see these things in the later pages are pretty much blank for the first 2 columns. And so you're in this stage now where you're really talking to customers, getting input, finding out about the market, and thinking about designs.
Okay.
Let's see what's on the back. Design history file, right? So that's at the very end. You just want to make sure that when you're finally releasing your product, you've got everything documented. All the operation should be going.
Got it. Okay, that's
so makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can kind of go through here, and if someone is more of an engineer, and they don't necessarily know what they should be working on, they could look through here and find what aspect of the project needs to get done, and then you as like kind of a CEO or overall, chief engineer, operations guy, I don't know where you stand, and all of your execs, right? You want to make sure and go through and you have enough people where you can put a couple people on each of these things. But what a lot of people do is they get a head start on things that really should wait until later on. So you can probably scan this and blank out everything, and
I think I'm gonna do that.
And go for that. And this, depending on what you need for what you're doing, this is for one company, but of course this changes for every different company. I think everybody has their own process for doing things.
It's a start. It's a great start for sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
perfect.
Cool.
Got it. Sweet. Thanks. Oh, also,